Welcome to Demystifying IT with Bopi Dal and Sarjeet Kanungo, speaking the language of IT with innovators and pioneers that have harnessed the power of information technology.
I'm back with my old friend Tyler Falkenhagen, the CIO and CTO of Shell Energy, one of the leading providers of renewable and low-carbon energy solutions in the world. We've been discussing how he fosters a culture of innovation and how he measures and communicates the value and impact of IT to the business. Now, Tyler, I want to get your take on AI and machine learning. We can't do a tech podcast without talking about ChatGPT. So what are your thoughts?
It's an interesting one. I actually attended a recent event on generative AI, and it's a very intriguing prospect for me. I think at this stage, especially with the news reports of various things going on, it's a little bit dangerous, to be frank. And the reason that I said it's a little bit dangerous is you hear these news stories of people that don't fully understand how it works or how to utilize it, and are making some large mistakes. In that generative AI, for example, can make up data, make up information that when you're reading it, if you're not looking closely at it, you don't realize that there was a story of an attorney recently that filed a brief that generative AI made up some legal briefs. So in that sense, I think it's dangerous. I think Microsoft is taking a very, very good and interesting approach, and they're calling all of their generative AI as co-pilots, right? They're a big investor in ChatGPT. That's an interesting take on it, in that you still need to vet the information that's being produced. You still need to go through it. But I don't see it as the end of careers. I don't see it as the apocalypse that some people may be making it out to be. I think what it'll do in the long term is make people much more efficient. And at the end of the day, that's what we're all trying to do, is be more efficient. I think it'll allow people to have more enjoyment in their jobs. I think it can really be a tool, and I use that very purposefully, a tool to help people in their jobs, not a replacement for jobs. Maybe some, I don't know, I can't predict that, but I see it being a help more of a replacement.
Makes sense. Great point of view. 100% agree with that. What are some of the lessons or best practices that have you learned from your previous roles or experiences in IT?
Yeah, I think we as technologists, if you've been in the space for a long time, you have a tendency to want to use the latest and greatest thing that's coming out. And with a decent amount of experience, you get in trouble sometimes in using some of those latest technologies if they're not quite ready for prime time. Or you're using these technologies that are the latest and greatest and innovative, maybe for the wrong reasons. Maybe you're using it for the fact that it's the latest and greatest. I'd say that's a big lesson for me, is making sure that the tool that you're using in technology is the right tool for the problem that you're trying to solve, and not trying to find a problem to use the tool. The other thing that I would say is, for me, I look at IT as a group that should never say no. And I truly mean that, should never be no, because at the end of the day, everything is one of three factors in IT. How much time do I have? How much money, or what is the cost? And what is my appetite for risk? The example I use with my CEO now is, if you came to me and said you wanted to put a server on the moon, I would say no problem. I can absolutely do it. But my time, cost, and risk may say it's going to cost me, $20 billion. It's going to take me 30 years, and the risk of life is great, right? It's the business's ultimate decision to see, are you willing to accept that risk, accept that cost, and accept that time? Because I think with enough time, enough money, and enough risk appetite, really anything you want to do can be accomplished. It's just not always are you up for the amount of money, time, and risk that it takes. I think that one's a big one for me. And then finally, as I touched on it before, really making sure that we and I in technology understand the businesses that we're in, whether it's taking classes online about how markets work in the retail energy space or understanding how a call center works. Early on in my career, I worked in telecom and I spent a month in a B2B call center as part of contract negotiations with the union at the time. We had what we called strike training, and I spent a month in New Jersey doing B2B call center work. It had nothing to do with IT, but it made me fully appreciate the business that I was supporting at the time. And I think that may be an extreme case of spending a month doing it, but these go-sees that I mentioned, I think, are really important for building that knowledge.
Fantastic. So you're a Longhorn. You graduated from the University of Texas with a degree in electrical engineering. How has your education played a role in your career?
Yeah, it's funny. So my electrical engineering degree with a focus on power systems, and I'm in the retail power space. So it's very fitting, but I didn't actually start my career there. I started my career in telecom, writing code. I've done everything from managing software development teams to data analytics teams. I'd say the educational background for me helps me in the industry that I'm in, even though I'm not in the business per se. I'm obviously on the technology side. We partner with the business, but I understand the business. It helps me progress and understand when we're doing certain projects or in the past when I had other roles in other parts of the company, whether it's offshore wind or something along those lines. It helps me understand simple things like units of measure or components that go into certain things and how they interact. So it's very helpful for me in telecom. Not as helpful, but it's been a good help in this space.
Do you also think being an engineer always prepares well for solving a problem that ahead of you?
I definitely would say that. I think one of the most impactful classes that I took in university was logic design. I think in engineering, at least in electrical engineering, I took probably 3 or 4 different versions of logic design, whether it's digital logic design or logic design within math, the mathematics department. It's very helpful to understand, even in your daily life, root cause analysis, right? Or if this, then that, right? Something as simple as that, and understanding if I do this, it could have this consequence. Um, just in general. So engineering really hard when you're in university and not the easiest major out there, I think sets people up for all aspects of their life and how to manage through. I will say one class in college that I think should be more well taught is organization. I think as you move up in your career, organization and context switching and that is critical to success.
Very well said. Agree. What are some of the goals and aspirations that you have for yourself and your IT team in the next year or two?
As I mentioned, I think customer centricity from a business perspective is our main focus right now. Making sure that we are providing that customer experience that our customers really are looking for across the board. I think for me, in a career wise, I really enjoy the work that I'm doing now. I think it's an exciting time to be in the renewable space. Even if you're not, for example, like me in the retail space, let's say you're in the offshore wind space, or if you're doing something with EVs, I think it's an exciting time because there's a lot of energy around it, uh, to use that term purposefully, and that a lot of people are interested in helping the planet, are interested in simplifying the way that they interact with their car or the way that they interact with storms. Resiliency is a big factor, I think, in Texas, where renewables can help play a role with batteries, as an example. I know there's a lot more appetite in that space since the previous winter storm Uri that we had. So it's an exciting space for me. I'm looking to where the industry grows, what areas are going to grow more than others, what new innovations are going to come and where they're going to come from. It's a very interesting time to be in the renewable space.
If I can latch on to the same question, I had the good fortune to know that you're building your team from scratch. How do you invest in growing the team that you are building?
Yeah, I would say when we started, we were much smaller than we are now. When we're growing, the problem is you don't want to grow too fast, because if you grow too fast, then I think you're not ready for that growth. And by growth, I mean people growth. And so you want to be very purposeful in how quickly that you're adding positions or you're growing your IT landscape as a whole, and making sure that it's appropriate, because if you grow too fast and you don't have enough people, then you're going to overload the folks that you have currently. If you have too many people and you're not growing fast enough, then you're not being as efficient as you would like to be. So when we're growing, what I look for is very strong people that we can bring in, and I want to make sure that they have opportunities for growth, right? So as we grow purposefully. When we then grow even more, the people that we have the opportunities for their career growth, whether it's in the same role but an elevated look at that role, or it's a completely different role because they want to experience a different part of technology, or even in the business. One of the things that we've done pretty well here is, as we've grown both the B2B and B2C sides of our business, we look for opportunities where people can experience different roles. So that's important for me. And then looking for growth opportunities for an individual. When I first started a role maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I just joined Shell, and my line manager at the time came to me, I think it was on my first week, and said, "Well, what role do you want next?" And my initial reaction was, "Well, I just got here. What do you mean? What, you're already trying to get rid of me?" And then you start to realize, as you go through it, in order for me to have the skills to do the thing that I want to do next, I need to start working on them now. So that's a big thing for me within our group is, when you're in a role, start thinking about your next role, not because you're looking to move immediately or you want to jump through the ladder very, very quickly, so that you have the time to prepare, get any certifications or any trainings or more go-sees, as we talked about earlier. These are the opportunities that allow you and prepare you to do the next thing that you want to do and make you a better candidate for the next thing you want to do, versus just heads down focused on your current role.
Fantastic. What are some of the values or principles that guide your leadership style and decision making?
The biggest one for me, and I go back to some of the best line managers that I've had in my career, is the key to a successful leader is understanding what you don't know. Once you understand your strengths, once you understand your weaknesses, it's then important to surround yourself with people that are bigger and more seasoned in the areas where you're not as strong. It's okay as a leader to say that you don't know. There's no way that every leader is going to know every aspect and be an expert in every part of their business. It's just not possible. And that's where you need to surround yourself, not just from a business lens perspective, but also from a personal style, the way that you operate. Having that diversity, whether it's truly diversity, DE&I, or whether it's just the ways of working, is important. And I feel like my team right now is very good in that. Is that we recently did an exercise on ways of working, and the way that it came out is very different for all four of us on our leadership team. And that's important to me. It was really great to see that, because it means that we're bringing enough perspective and enough lens to the situation that hopefully it's not groupthink.
Fascinating. Thank you, Tyler. I enjoyed chatting with you.
Thank you, Sarjeet. I appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak with you as well.
You're very welcome. And that wraps up another episode of Demystifying IT. Don't miss any of our new episode by subscribing to our show. You can also help us reach more amazing leaders like yourself by leaving us a review on Apple or Spotify. We really appreciate your feedback and support. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
This has been Demystifying IT with Bopi Dal and Sarjeet Kanungo. Connect with Bopi and Sarjeet at demystifyingit.com, where you can take a quick assessment to explore the opportunities you may be leaving on the table and learn to expand your market or create a new one by building your business foundations on technology. Demystifying IT is a production of Forbes Books.